Hello, everybody. Okay, I don't know if some of you were over there, but I just went live with the one and only Lindsey Stirling. I'm still like, my heart is racing kind of fast because I think she's so amazing and I can't believe I just had a conversation with her and I get to have another conversation with her here soon. Okay, so we're going to add her in and I'm going to go over some of the hot topic questions that you guys have had for Lindsey. So here we go. Here she goes. I think technology. Here she is.
Hi.
Oh, now you're underneath and I'm up here.
Oh, the tables have turned.
Welcome, Lindsey.
Thanks for having me. We just had the best conversation on
Yes.
my page. She was sharing all her knowledge with me and my peoples. And
So fun.
oh my gosh, I just love everything you share. So thank you so much. I'm on my own hair journey, everybody. It's
Yes.
I'm a new beginner in this, so
yes,
it'll take some time.
I was gonna see if you could kind of introduce yourself in who's Lindsey Stirling. Almost all my people were like freaking out that I was gonna have you, but I wanted you to just quickly introduce yourself. So
yes, yep, I'm a violinist is kind of what I'm known for the most, but I love to, I guess I love to pour all my creativity into the violin. So I dance with it. I love to use my music to make really fun videos that tell stories. And yeah, I would say that's what I do. I tour a lot, do shows, and write a lot of music.
Yay. And she's like a quadruple, I don't even know. There's layers and layers of talent that Lindsey has, and it's quite insane. I'm like, is she actually human? I'm not sure.
Well, right now I've got a tail coming out of my ear, so who knows?
I know, that's cute. Okay. You got a little wag back there.
My little puppy dog is playing.
That's funny. And Lindsey is back home with her family right now during all this craziness.
Yes.
So that is awesome. And shout out to her sister for introducing you to me.
Yes, I know.
Very, very fun.
She's the best. I always joke that she's my older sister because she is my younger sister, but she's just so wise, and I always get advice from her. She's like my go-to for all things, whether it's hair care or like life advice. And so she's like my younger older sister.
Younger older sister. Those old souls, they do us all some good.
I know.
So I'm going to dive into some questions that you guys actually had for Lindsey. And one of the big ones was, you were supposed to be on tour right now, correct?
Yes, it was kind of crazy. We landed in South America. We're about to start our South American tour, and we landed in Bogota, Colombia. And as soon as we landed, we got the news that your tour is canceled, turn around, fly home. And it was so shocking. It was right at the beginning of all this coronavirus scare when it hadn't quite exploded here yet. But by the time, in the 12 hours that we were on the plane flying there, like the world kind of flipped upside down. And it was just crazy timing. And so I got back to LA and realized, okay, I'm going to go be with my family if I'm going to be quarantined. Like, I'm not going to do this alone.
Yeah. And a lot of people are wondering, like, what is your plan for the tour? Will it go back on, or?
Yes, we're gonna, right now, to be determined, everything. We have a summer tour coming up in the States, which, fingers crossed, it's not till late June through August. And so I hope I get to, I hope I get to do it. But if we don't, we're just gonna push it back, and we will come back next year, and we'll do the same tour, and just got to take this all, I guess, one step at a time. And my whole thing about it is like, I'm just going to take it one day at a time. Like when they say, oh, it's going to be 2 months, I'm like, nope, I just got to make it through the next week,
That's great advice. Honestly, I've had to do that too. Like, okay, we got through the day. We're good. We're healthy. We got roof over our head. Like, you just got to count your blessings every single day for sure. It's nuts.
Well, it's also been interesting to realize that, like, I've been here for now 3 weeks. And yet, like, at first I felt so displaced. I was like, I'm supposed to be performing in South America right now, but then it was like, well, maybe, I don't know. It's made me reevaluate and be like, well, maybe my plans aren't necessarily where I'm supposed to be. Maybe I'm supposed to be here and learning something different. And I've like found this strange new normal in this situation after being here for like 3 weeks. It's like, I have a slight routine. I found a way that I can feel sane, and it's a balance of trying to be like a little bit of productiveness because that's how I like to live, but also
that's great,
giving myself permission to just be
Yeah.
and to just enjoy my family and to like watch an extra movie, eat an extra
Yeah.
brownie if I want. Like, this is what life is right now, and I'm not going to
For
fight
sure.
it. Gonna
Yes.
make some little goals that I can do and then be, you know?
Yeah, I know. I think it has been really good how it's been causing all of us to slow down a little, especially those of us who are like go, 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 go.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have time to reflect a little on like, what am I doing with my life and where am I going and how am I going to get there? It's good.
Absolutely.
You got to look
Yeah.
for the positive, and I love your attitude on it. Um, and then, so a lot of my people who follow me for hair tips wanted to know how your career has affected your hair. Like
Oh,
when do you feel like when you really got into it all, like that it started kind of affecting your hair where you noticed it more?
you know, I feel like I've always liked to play with my hair, but I think that suddenly when I had to feel like, you know, I had to step on stage, you know, on tour almost every single night. And so I'd be like pulling it into these crazy, I was always trying to think of new ways to style it. And I'd be
Yeah.
pinning it back and braiding it and like ratting it to death. And I really started to notice it taking a toll, you know, probably after my first year of touring, just so much hairspray. I can't even tell you, so many heat products. I finally have put away the straighteners and, you know, I'm just trying to use kinder products and
Yes.
kinder tools. But yeah, it's definitely taken a toll on my hair, especially when I decided I wanted to go from red to blonde. I wanted to switch up my look. I did it way too fast. Like,
Yeah, all the
shame
wrong
on
things.
me. I feel like I'm still recovering from
That's
that.
okay.
But you know, it's you know, we were actually just talking over on my page that I think on this next tour I've decided to do wigs to, you know,
Awesome.
save my hair from nightly torture. So yeah, baby steps,
Yeah,
but I definitely have
for sure.
noticed it's taken a huge toll on, you know, my hair.
Yeah, and Lindsay told me in her live that she is now a once a week washer, which is awesome. So
Yes.
everyone can do it, guys. Lindsay can
And
do
I
it.
do
You can do
that
it.
through touring. I do it through
That's awesome.
hot yoga. And so like,
Yeah, all the
you know,
sweating.
all the sweating. And
Yeah,
I've never been told my hair smells.
good. See, I think people are just more like self-conscious about maybe them smelling, but even my
Yeah.
husband after like 20 days, he's like, honestly, like I'd tell you, like your hair doesn't really smell. Like
Right.
it doesn't have like a stench to it. I think we're way more like hypersensitive to our own scent, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. A lot of people want to know too, how many hours a day would you say you practice, or do you give yourself time to take breaks? And how do you possess so much energy to do what you do? We all want to know where the energy comes from. We want some of that.
Oh man, the energy, I would say, you know, I definitely have days where I'm not quite as motivated as I wish I was. Some days I'm like, go, go, go. And then other days it's a little harder to motivate myself. And, you know, I'm just like anybody else, but I think it's through reminding myself why this all excites me. And there's so many things about this that I just love. And then there's also a lot of things that I have to do in my work that I don't necessarily love.
Right.
And I always kind of laugh at the phrase where it says, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think maybe that's true for some people, but I love what I do. And I've worked a lot of days in my life. You know, that sometimes part of our job, and even if your dream job, involves things that are hard and that aren't fun. And so those are the days that I really have to like kind of pick myself up and be like, we got this, like I can do this. But at the end of the day, it's probably twofold. It's reminding myself like, I love this, even though if I don't love this piece of it and this part is hard for me. It's like, I love this. And I have pictures in my, like, I have a little home, you know, little home studio set up, and I have pictures in there of my favorite parts of my world. Like the parts that when I'm in the studio working, is to remind me of like, that's what I love. They're like pictures from music videos or pictures from tour of, you know, from stage. And it just is a constant reminder of like, it's almost like my vision board of not what I want to be, but the parts of my life that I love. And I continuously like remind myself of that so that while I'm doing the stuff that's hard, I've got that visual.
That's important too, I think, to like teach people, because that phrase that you talked about is kind of a tricky one, because it's like, you know, not work a day in your life. Like there's going to be pros and cons of what you love to do. And I think you have, like, people have to grind to get to, I'm sure you have grinded hours and fingers of blood probably, like, to get to where you're at. And even though you love it, like, it didn't mean that you didn't put the time and the work in. So I think that's smart to tell people, like, that it's not just all butterflies and roses up there on stage, you know, like you grinded to get to where you're at, which is really awesome.
No, well, and I think, like you said, it's like even the beginning phases, there's so much grinding, you know, and I would have to remind myself all the time that this is my dream. This is my dream. Like, you know, because those beginning grinding times, there's a lot more rewards that I get to physically feel and see now. But in the beginning, it was, you know, you have to like work a long time before those dreams and ideas can like happen.
For sure. And that kind of leads me into my next question. A couple people had asked like that they have young kids that are really inspired by you, which I have no doubt about. I think so many people all over the world are, but they were saying, what could I tell my child who aspires to be someone like you? And I think you just kind of pointed on that, but what would you tell them?
I would say that, you know, once upon a time, I was a young girl that aspired to be like people, you know, like, and I think that keeping a vision of like what you want to do is so important, because as people, we naturally move towards what we focus on. You know, that's why I have pictures of my goals and stuff around my little office space. And, you know, I remember when I was a kid, I was a huge fan, not a kid, a teenager. I was a huge fan of Amy Lee from Evanescence. And I like made music videos pretending like I was her. And like, I just loved her music so much. And I would listen to it all the time. I had a poster on my wall, like huge fan. I wrote a song for her when I wrote my first album. You know,
so cool.
She did not sing it, granted, you know, because I was a very small artist and reaching out to Amy Lee was like never going to happen at the time. However, years later, after all of this, after writing songs for her and like wanting to work with her, she reached out and asked me to be on her song. And then we got to tour together, and it was so crazy, because when we toured together, she suggested to me, you know, because we did a co-headline tour, and she was like, hey, how about we perform on each other's sets? And I was like, well, what song would you want to sing? And she picked the song that I wrote for her, like just randomly. That's the song she picked out of all the songs that I have singers on. She's like, I really think I could sing Shatter Me. And I just then got to go out there every night in front of thousands of people and perform with her the song I wrote for her that she had no idea until I told her.
Oh, wow.
So I think that belief in yourself and like just putting yourself out there, putting that goal into the world over and over and over again, no matter how many times you hear no. Like, I think I thought that road was done. Like, Amy Lee's never going to sing Shatter Me, you know? But they come back in the weirdest ways and in the coolest ways. And you never know where your dreams are going to take you, because they might not happen when you want. They might not happen how you want.
Very true.
But like, they will come back to you in some shape or form. And I constantly remind myself now, don't stop dreaming. Don't stop making big wishes, because that's part of your magic. And I think that's something that children have so strongly. So encouraging children to believe in themselves and to make big wishes, and to, you know, to just put their dreams out there over and over and over again, and try. Never get up, no matter how many times you get pushed down.
That's great advice. And I think some, like being a parent myself and having 3 little kids, I can see where parents come from sometimes when their kids do have such big dreams, worrying about the letdown of their child. Like, what if they don't ever become this? Like, how do I protect their, you know, their magic? Like you said, how do I protect them from feeling like the sorrow of not reaching that? But I think, like, for me, like at the end of the day, you know, if you were to look at your life and look back and think like, did I try my hardest to get to where I wanted to go? And if you can say yes to that, I think that's insane. I think that's amazing, because I think a lot of people do hit that where they give up and they're just like, you know, this is just too big of a dream for me. And like, I'm sure you could have been that person who at some point was like, it's too much. But then you just never know. You never know until you try, right?
Yeah, and I love what you said, because you were like, it's for your kids. It's like hard to think. And I've thought that before about my parents, and I'm like, how brave were my parents that they encouraged a crazy dream. I went to them when I was in college. I was studying to be a therapist, and I was like, actually, I think I'm going to be a dancing violinist, and I'm going to perform to like hip hop and dubstep. And they were like, okay. And I guarantee their heart broke for me, because when my first big time, like I'd, you know, been doing little things and like hustling, doing all these little shows and stuff. But then my first big break was on America's Got Talent, and my parents drove to LA with me, and they were in the studio audience when on national TV in front of like 11 million people, I was told that I sounded like a bunch of rats being strangled. And I was devastated. I also got the big X. So like my parents had to watch their child's dreams get destroyed. And at the time, in that moment, and even for like a month after, I was like, I can't do this. Like, that's the end. I can't do this again. That was too humiliating. And I obviously don't have what it takes. But you know, so my parents had to watch that and watch their child's dreams get crushed. But I'm such a big believer in something inside me told me my journey wasn't done. And thank heavens I listened to it. And I got up again and I tried. But I do believe that we, like, the people that succeed aren't the people that never failed. They're the people that failed over and over and over again, but just have the resilience to stand back up and to go for like plan W. You know, it wasn't my first plan that worked. And, you know, and I do think it takes a lot of courage as a parent. I can't imagine. I'm like, would I have had the courage as a parent to be like, yes, chase this weird dream, little Lindsay, go for it. But my parents were dreamers too. And,
that's cool.
You know, and like you said, I love a quote from Lucille Ball where she said, I'd rather regret the things I have done than regret the things I haven't. And like, you can live with that. You can live with disappointment, but you can't live with like regret of not trying.
Right. That is huge. And I think a lot of people, they, like you were saying earlier, they get nervous. They let their fear just kick them back to the curb. You know, they let their fear keep them from even just, I know that for some people, it's even just hard to like hear their own voice play back on, like, some people will say, is that how I sound? You know, you're like, yeah, it is how you sound. And it's fine. You know, we just are, sometimes we can be our own worst critic and we can be the person who holds ourselves back. And so it's just a matter of being like, you know what, screw it. Like, I'm going to go for it. And this is what I want to do. And I'm going to put myself out there and I don't care what people say. That is hard too. You have to develop a thick skin, I'm sure. You know, so that when those X's come in life, that you're like, okay, that sucked, but we're going to keep moving. Like you said, plan W. I love that.
Moving on to plan W.
Yep, we got all the plans. So you mentioned before, someone said, is this what you always wanted to do, or did you have a backup plan? You kind of mentioned you thought about becoming a therapist.
Yes. I mean, actually, when I went to college, I originally was going to be a director. I wanted to go into film. Like, I was one of those, like, nowadays every kid has editing software on their computer and like you can make a movie on your phone. But back when I was a kid, you know, when I was a teenager, editing software was not around. And I was such a nerd. I found some and I learned how to edit when I was like 14. And, you know, so I went to school to be in film. And it wasn't, and then I went on a mission and I kind of came home realizing that I didn't think that was my path. I went into therapy and I actually got a degree in recreational therapy. And then I became a violinist. But I mean, the violin was always a huge part of my life. I've played since I was 6 years old and I was classically trained, took it very seriously. But I think I got burnt out on it when right before I went to college. I was about to be a performance major and I just realized I don't love this anymore. Like, I don't know where my passion went, but it made me very sad because it's such a huge part of my life. And I was just burnt out. I'd like practiced too hard and hadn't had enough joy in it, or something was wrong. And so I went to be a film student and I decided I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to put it in a case and sell it. I'm going to make it fun again. And so I started to just play all types of different music and collaborate with different like bands. I'd go to open mic nights and meet people and say, hey, can I jam with you sometime? And I seriously, strictly made it just fun. And it helped me find my passion and also made it from something where as a classical musician, I felt like I was always regurgitating music. They tell me what to play and I recreate it. You know, whatever's on the sheet, you do exactly what it says. And I'm such a creative mind and like kind of a free spirit, and I needed to be creative with it. And so for the first time, the violin became this tool of creativity. And I think that's when everything changed. And so it was just by trying to find my passion that I found my career. Like, that's when I became alive and was like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting in class, but this is what I want to do. And so I did finish school kind of as just to make sure, well, I didn't want to just stop. I wanted to finish what I'd set out to do. And so I got my degree, but immediately was like, sawing away at my violin.
Like, all right, got that done. Now moving on to the next thing.
So anyways, therapist.
Yeah. Somebody said, what inspired you to incorporate like movement and dance into the violin playing? Like, obviously your creativity, but like at what point were you like, I'm going to do both?
You know, the idea actually originally came to me when I was in high school. My senior year, I was trying to earn money for college, and there's this program called the Distinguished Young Women program. And when I did it, it was called Junior Miss. And so it was basically like a pageant where you had to have talent, you had to have there was like the evening gown section and, full on pageant. And so I decided, heck, I'm going to do this. But then I think there was like 6 really good violinists in the Gilbert pageant. And I was like, they're all about the same skill level as me. We're just going to play different classical pieces. Right. So I was really thinking, how can I stand out? And so I wrote a rock song on my violin. And then I learned movement to it. And it was supposed to be more comedic because, believe it or not, I was never a dancer until I was 23 was when I decided I'm going to take this seriously. And it's almost hilarious that I made this conscious decision. I'm going to be a dancing violinist because I'd never danced before.
That is crazy. Oh my God.
It's like me being like, I'm going to play the violin and play basketball at the same time. I don't play basketball. Like, that's why it was so strange. But
it sounds fun though.
Yeah, I just thought I'd always loved dance. And so when I did it in this pageant, it was more just like movement and like a wink here and like a head tick there and like, I don't know, a little kick there. But, I had such an amazing reaction. I thought people would be confused and not know what to think. I was like, this could go really good or really bad. It's a risk, but I was willing to take it. But anyways, it ended up taking me all the way. I won and went all the way to the national pageant and then won the talent at the national level. And, it just made me be like, there's something to this. And then years later, I decided I was going to take it seriously and I wanted to like do pirouettes and jumps and kicks. And I taught myself to dance when I was 23.
That's amazing. Just to like take up a skill so late in life.
Yeah, long answer, but it was I just think it's really amazing how I do this to myself still all the time. I put limits on myself of like, well, I don't think I could do that. Well, I probably wouldn't be good at that. Well, I'm kind of afraid to try that. I'd probably be really awkward and embarrassed. But yeah, it was in me that said I can dance and play the violin, and I really think sometimes we just have these boxes that we live in that are completely built by our own like vision of what we are and what we aren't, not even by anyone else. It's kind of like what you were saying earlier. And when you push down the walls of these boxes and just open up your limits and step outside of it and try, it's amazing sometimes what you can be and accomplish that you probably just didn't do because you didn't believe you could do it. And I've seen this happen over and over again in my life and still remind myself of this when I wanted to start to try new things.
Yeah, for sure. And I think half of us don't even know what we're capable of because we're still in that box. We don't even allow it. It's like you don't even allow the dream to really perspire until you push that wall down, for sure. I love that. One last question for you before we sign off. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but one of the questions in a roundabout way was a lot of people were saying you're probably crazy busy, especially when you're on tour. How do you juggle things in your personal life, such as friendships and family and church with your job? And this person said, I know you make it a priority from watching you, but is it a struggle? Like, how do you balance that? I think we all struggle with balance in our lives, but we look at you and we're like, how do you balance it all? We want to know.
I think I made a decision a long time ago when I first started. Well, I guess I had a moment where I realized my life changed. And it was when I released this video called Crystallize, and it was this dubstep violin video where I was performing in this ice castle, and it like I just watched my YouTube channel take off and go viral, as they say. And I'd been doing it for a minute at that point, but this one I just knew in that moment, I think my life just changed, and it had. And I remember I got this like really scared feeling as I was like sitting in this moment, and I was like, if this really does take off, will I change? And like, will I become something maybe that I don't want to be? And so I knelt down in that moment and I said a prayer and I made this promise to God. It was almost like my own little private covenant that I made with my Heavenly Father in that moment. And I just said, I'm going to do everything I can to try to stay true to my standards and who I am and the person that I like being, like, you know, and my beliefs and my standards. And I, in turn, said, take me wherever you want me to go, and I will keep my end of the bargain, you know, wherever that ends. If this ends tomorrow, or if like I explode all over the world, like, I'm going to be the best representative I can. And like, let's do this together. And I feel like I've done my best. I'm far from perfect, but I've really tried to honor that promise, like putting my values first, whether that's like my family first, and, you know, the people in my life, putting them first. And then secondly, I guess not secondly, but equal to, like, putting my standards at the forefront of my choices, you know, and putting God at the foundation of my life. And as my life has flipped upside down and turned around, and I've literally, my life is so different than it was in that moment when I knelt down and said that prayer. However, my life's the same, and I'm the same. I'm very much so, like, and I you know, and I think that it's a result of that promise that I've just been so protected and so incredibly blessed. And, you know, I think that when we put Heavenly Father first, it's amazing what happens in our lives. And it's not like, oh, he'll bless me more, but it's just like, well, one, I think he knows he can trust me with certain opportunities. But secondly, I think it's just allowed me to stay sane in an industry that I think can sometimes change a lot of things for a lot of people. And so I have been protected.
Yeah. And I think that's huge. I think that's one thing a lot of people want to know, because I've seen a lot of people, religious, go into this fame, and then it does change them. You see it change them, their lives change. And then I think the coolest thing that you just said that I totally agree with, and it's something that I too, as a young girl, made a promise to my Heavenly Father that I would make these decisions now, that I would decide now. And like you said, make that personal covenant with your God that I'm going to do these things. And I'm always, and I remember like a Sunday school teaching me one time that don't wait until you're faced with a decision that is going to make you question your standards and your character to make that decision. Don't wait to make that decision when you're in a tough spot. Make it now, so that when you do get to that time in your life, and we all will, that you're like, I know what I'm going to do, because, you know, I made that decision a long time ago. And so I love that you said that so much. That like made me feel like I'm gonna start crying, Lindsey. Oh man,
I cry all the time. Anyone who's been to one of my concerts, like, I would say 8 times out of 10 I'll cry on stage. Like, I don't know why, I just am like a very emotional, like, I just share a little piece of my heart, and I'm just like, oh, I love that.
Well, and I truly feel like people can feel that passion from you, and there's a special spirit about you, and I feel it, and I know everyone here does too, and I know all your fans do, and that's probably a huge part in why you're so successful. So thank you so much for coming onto my page and talking to my people. I know they've been loving it. There's been like 1 billion hearts the whole time going on, and but yeah, like you said, this is the first time me and Lindsey have officially spoken like face to face, and it's been so fun. So
I'll have to, when we come through Idaho someday, when we can tour and be in big groups again, we're gonna meet in person.
Yeah. I'm gonna squeeze you one of these days.
Yes.
When the corona is over.
Yes. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us, and thanks for having me, Jasmine. This was so fun.
Yes, it was. You stay safe and tell your family hi.
You too.
All right. Bye, Lindsey.
Bye.